Okay, so I'd like to get started, and I guess there's two things that we're interested in talking about, and I'm not sure which one to talk about. So the first subject is wireless radiation, which is all the stuff from our cell phones and routers and Wi-Fi's, and that's the topic that we've spoken about at every Real Truth About Health conference. And then there's a new topic, I guess it's not new, but it's newer, and it's 5G. And that one seems a little, well, they both are concerning. This seems a little more out of control. So I guess I'd like to open up by asking each of you to be very brief, just take 3 minutes, and just tell us what exactly we should be concerned about. In other words, most people are not talking about this in regular mainstream circles, and yet you're talking about this a lot. So either you're making a big deal about something that's not a big deal, or a lot of people are not getting the information and not informed. So if you could each open up with what is on your mind, why are you writing books about this? Why are you talking about this? Why are you lecturing? Why are you putting all your life's focus on this topic? What is on your minds? And even with Gabriel and Brian, you have thriving health and nutrition practices, and all of a sudden this is something that both of you are speaking about. So if you guys could explain what's going on with these topics, why you're talking about it, and bring us up to date with what's on your mind about this. Push the button.
I think that 5G and wireless in schools, it's all connected, because the amount of exposure we have now in schools is not safe. And we're talking about increasing those levels drastically using all kinds of new devices that are going to be interconnected, testing 5G in schools, and it really requires everyone coming together on this issue to protect our kids, because they will have a lifetime of exposure to this. And whereas in other countries where they're removing the wireless, especially for the younger kids, and having those conversations, in the United States, we're just beginning that process in terms of having that conversation. So I think that this is an emergency in our schools, actually. And we have a lot of work to do.
Well, I couldn't agree any more that it's an emergency. It's very serious. My role in life, Steve brought up, what are you guys doing all this other work and 5G? And it's because the very life of the planet is affected. Like we talk about the global electric circuit, which has to do with all our physiology for all life, not just humans, all life. And we have the Schumann resonance. When that's disrupted, lowers the melatonin, that's connected to cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and a host of other things, particularly mental problems, anxiety, paranoia, depression. Really well documented. There's over 10,000 papers. Some people say 25,000. I'll stick with 10,000 that show that 2, 3, and 4G are causing problems. So I see the 5G issue as a major threat to not just all of humanity, but to the whole living planet. So that's why I'm talking about it.
When they created electric, they realized that it was hazardous for human bodies and human cells. So eventually they made it so they put rubber on that, natural rubber, latex, that in some way neutralized it. When they rolled electronics out, they also knew that it was dangerous. How can you not imagine that we can communicate thousands and thousands of miles distance, and this invisible wiring doesn't permeate you and other life forms? So of course it is. But when they really became bizarre is with 5G. And I'll elaborate on this later, but try to be concise now. I've had meetings starting 4 years ago. I've actually added a class that I personally teach at Hippocrates on this particular subject. because a former CIA official came through Hippocrates Health Institute and warned me about this. And I was hoping he was wrong. Every once in a while, this stuff becomes so overbearing to me. You know, I want to think something's normal, but sadly, the older I get, it's very hard to find normal in our world. And what he told me, it was really hard to believe. But he said, for 3 generations, 5G has been used to maim people. We also have a podcast and a radio program. It's on every Sunday morning at 9. And I interviewed a young man, philanthropic young man, who made a incredible documentary that, please write this down and please view it. It's called 5G Apocalypse. And there it, much more in detail, gave me information from ex-military people, how they used it in my heritage, in the Irish, in Northern Ireland, and how they would put people in hospitals, et cetera. So this comes out of the Pentagon, and they just rolled it off the shelf. And later I'll tell you about how 4 months ago I had a meeting with the gentleman who rolled this out in Europe.
I can tell you why I wrote the book. It's because on the research side, the science side, there was a preponderance of evidence that directly linked the use of technology, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phone use, directly to very serious problems with cancers and a far more greater set of intrusion to the body that has created dysfunction of the body, and sometimes it breaks the body down, and it's critical because of the exposures. And it was saddening me that we had so much evidence, yet no one knew. It wasn't common knowledge. If you know the courts, they argue that you should have known about it. We didn't know about it. So we were pretty frustrated that there was so much science we knew. We understood the mechanics of the breakdown to the body, and none of us knew it. So that's why we wrote the book. And why now? It's so pervasive, almost every child. There are more toilets in the world. There are more people using cell phones than toilets in the world. It's pervasive use, and all our devices are generating emissions. So all of a sudden you're in an environment where these many sources of emissions that potentially can be dangerous to you. And 5G, and I can only extrapolate, makes it worse in time. Why I extrapolate? Because there's no research. We really don't know. But I can tell you at 20 gigahertz, your immune system is impaired. It suppresses your immune system itself, and the bugs in your gut love it. It propagates the gut, not necessarily the bad or the good, but the bad as well. And so I thought it was time to let as much as I knew about it and try to share it with you. So that's why I wrote the book.